Everybody, thanks for watching. Now, I know it's a lot of new people coming to my channel, coming to YouTube and getting into this information. A lot of you guys who are new to my channel who have subscribed. I've been on here for over a decade. I've been putting out videos for a long time, and I was putting out, information on this, long before people started getting paid for it, long before Google bought it, bought YouTube. So my initial, intentions was, as I talk about, to really put out videos for my study group when I was in law school. And I didn't expect other people to watch, but people start watching, and it is what it is today. But I know there's a lot of new people, and you guys are not used to the DVDs that I put out and all the information I was putting out. And it's a reason for that, because a lot of the information that are in those DVDs I can't put on YouTube, because before, I was blocked, or I was censored. I couldn't post because some things are outside of our control, and we have to deal with censorship. So that's what the DVDs are for. Now, I charge what I charge for them right now, $8.99 for, the first 3 days. Then after that, it's like $20. And that's because the time it takes for me to put into this, this work. My videos are lectures. They are, presentations. I put the stuff together. It takes time because it has to mean something. It's a point to it all. And in the beginning, we started out with Saturn Satan series, and it kept going up to where it is now. And all this stuff is like a storybook. It's a lot of information that all goes together, leading up to where we are today. And I know I'm just like everybody else. I don't like commercials. I don't like ads when I'm trying to see something. But, if you go onto a website for used cars, you should expect somebody to try to sell you a used car. So if you come in here for information, the information is here, and you are welcome to it, and it's here. But I think it's really disrespectful for people to put in the comment section, skip to 5 minutes and skip past what I'm trying to put out for people who was actually looking for it. Not saying that they're not going to see it themselves. I'm just saying it's crazy. I don't know when it became cool for people to try to, mess with somebody's livelihood, what they do, what they love to do. I wouldn't come to anybody's job. I don't care if you're Christian or what have you. I wouldn't come and tell you you can't make the money that you're making, or you don't deserve the money that you're making when you put in the work that you put in. I mean, that's just crazy. So I expect the people who come to this channel to be conscious people, or, trolls, or crazy, religious people, what have you. It is what it is. Either way, I expect most people to be Black and to understand what we do and what we go through. You got people out here that's really struggling. You got people out here doing what they can, selling dinners, recipes, what have you, whatever they can do to feed their family. Nobody should get in the way of anybody trying to feed their family, no matter what they're doing, as long as what they're doing is not killing nobody or stealing from somebody else or what have you. So, that being said, I appreciate everybody who comes here and views the videos, and everybody who supports. But if I see it in the comment section, I'm banning that person. So, be respectful. We debate in the comment section. We talk shit in the comment section. But at the end of the day, it's respect. We can have a mutual disagreement. Like I said, put the videos out for people who want them, and the people who want them buy them. And it's a mutual respect thing. And I appreciate everybody who supports. So wanted to get that out the way for the new people, and apologize for taking up time. I really don't like to do it. But yeah, just a quick reminder. We have Zodiac Body is now available, as well as Greek Mythology 4. And you can get Greek Mythology 1 through 4, and I'm throwing it on sale, as well as The Powers That Came to Be in 2022. These are all out. So right now, as I said, the first 3 days when I put out a new video, it will only be $8.99. So for the first 3 days, it's only $8.99. Make sure you guys take advantage. And again, apologize for this being long. Let's get into the video. So now, talked about before about information, how you go and do research. If you really care about what you talk about, then you should care about how you get your information, because you don't want to be left looking stupid, which is what happens to a lot of people. So some people, we call them trolls. Their life suck. they get a kick out of making somebody look bad to make themselves feel good, whatever it may be. Some people will jump on Google and post what they see that is biased information that fits what they wanted to say. So if you're going to do actual research, you need to be really unbiased and look at multiple sources and look at a whole collection of sources and make sure that they're agreeing on what you're trying to research. Because if you don't, somebody's going to come along and spank you and put the truth in your face, and you're going to have to deal with that. So when it comes to sources, primary sources, and then us debating this whole religion thing, you got to understand there is absolutely no concrete 100% proven proof that backs the Bible. It's a fact. Everything is always left up to speculation, and it's always, thought to have been. We have so many new stories coming out. I talked about this before, about all the forgeries and fakes that have been found throughout the world in museums and what have you. So recently, they talked about the Dead Sea Scrolls. So in every museum that has a Dead Sea Scroll, it's a forgery. It's a fake. So that's been coming out. They've been, locking down on so many different forgery rings that exist in Israel, exist, throughout the world. And it's one of the things that you can fake because you're talking about something that really can't be authenticated because we don't have nothing to really compare it to. It's just if you can get the researchers and scientists to take the money to say that it is what you think it is, there you go. So when you look at these things, proven to be false, fake, forgeries, what have you, in all of these cases, you had scientists, you had researchers, you had universities, you had all these people take money to say something is what it ain't. So they basically all took money to say religious artifact is real when it's not. So you have to understand that and then think about what's out there, who's controlling what's out there. What we see and the information we get coming in from Israel conflicted. On the one hand, as you can read this article here, you'll have a scholar from Israel, and from their main paper, the Haaretz, tell you, hey, the Exodus never happened, or we can't find anything that proves this story in the Bible. So you'll have Jews on the one hand tell you it's bullshit, and then on the other hand say, oh, we found this. And then you have to understand everything that entails when an artifact is found. There's people who have to come and do tests. And when you want to have something completely 100%, authenticated, it is put out there to scrutiny. And that's if the people who are making the claims allow you to have it. So let's just be real. It's not too many independent researchers that got the money to let alone go fly over there to the Middle East, to Israel, Egypt, or what have you, get the artifact, bring it back with, escorts, and you got to get approval. You got to pay for so much. Who has the time, the money to do all that to just figure out if an artifact is real or not? Not too many people who do it, who do. So you'll have some groups that have money and they'll do independent studies, or that's what they do. They get paid to go do independent studies on artifacts and just, they're kind of like the internal affairs of artifacts. And they go out and they do these, these research studies. But at the end of the day, who's paying? What's the motive behind it? What does it all mean? Is it going to be national news, global news? So as you can see, a lot of those things I just showed you, you see them online. Average person is not looking online for this stuff. The mass public is not looking online to find out if some, shard that belongs to such and such Jewish person or what have you is actually real or not. Well, they never heard about it in the first place. People just assume stuff is what TV says or what these scientists say. They don't even contemplate that it could be forged or fake and the reasons behind it. So it's things we have to take into consideration when you're doing actual research, to not be biased, to look at all the sources and to make sure you're reading correctly. Because even though you'll have stuff that say scientists determined this, you'll have some other scientists say we don't agree with it. So this is the case with the Silver Scrolls that was found. If you guys remember, Silver Scrolls was found in Israel that supposedly contain, verse from Numbers. They were found basically in, it's a place where they basically threw the trash at. The Byzantine Empire was there for a while. they used the place the tomb to store their guns, and they found it amongst trash, you know, stuff dating from the 8th century BCE and, all the way to the 3rd century BCE. So it was tough for them to tell, what time frame it came from. Now, understand they sat on this thing for years. I think it took them like 3 to 7 years to just unravel these little silver scrolls, this amulets fit around your neck. 3 to 7 years to just unravel it and then give us a date. So think about that. So one date was given for 8th century BCE. Two other researchers said, no, we don't think it's that old because it was next to some artifacts that they, from the 3rd to 4th century BCE. So that makes more sense. And then they took it to another university outside of these people's control or in view and said, oh, no, we're going to date it to the 6th century. And that's what they came up with in the end, the 6th century BCE. So what is the problem? The problem is this. We can't find anything concrete on the biblical Jews, period. There is no concrete anything on the Jews before the 4th century BCE. Everything is suspect. It's always a shard, a piece of pottery, a fragment, something small, nothing consistent with every other civilization we found on the face of the earth. You go into Africa, you're going to find African artifacts that we can say these people exist and these people was here and other civilizations around them spoke about them. You can do that with the Greeks. You can do that with the Romans. You can do that with all the Asians. You can do that with Native Americans. You can do that with South America. You can do that with every people on the planet except for the biblical Jews. Nobody spoke about them outside the Bible. Nothing outside the Bible. It's like they didn't exist. So it's this, frantic, crazy race to prove these people existed that really started once religion started to be, more popularized and spread. People had questions. And it was like, why can't we find these people before this certain time? And that certain time would be when the Greeks took control, which would be in the 4th century BCE. And this is when we get everything else, Hellenization, which would be the spreading of this, as I'll talk about, and the rise of the European powers and everything that took place. And it's like as if these people came out of nowhere. So talked about the Septuagint written in Greek. We know the New Testament written in Greek, and everything that we get pertaining to this biblical, history is coming through Greeks. Talked about Hecataeus, and you have one of the MOs that they use. So Hecataeus of Abdera is a perfect example. So they'll do stuff like this. They'll say, well, we can't really find stuff on the Jews from this certain time period. But Hecataeus, who is a prominent historian, traveled the world and found information on a lot of people. And he says that the ancient Egyptians told him about the Jews. This is around the 6th century BCE. So it's giving you like an unsure answer. But what it's done in the background, what it's trying to do is put the Jews in place in the 5th century BCE. Now, if you do that, then everything is fair game. It's all go. Because it's a possibility that these people were here, because here you have this Greek, historian, this traveler talking about the Jews, so long ago. And it's pseudo. We don't know for sure if he said this. It's just what we found that he may have said in fragments that exist that could have been his or not. And this is from, I talked about Diodorus Siculus, who's talking about Hecataeus. And anybody that's a real researcher has to understand that any information that we get, every single thing, I don't care if it's Josephus, I don't care if it's the 1st century CE Catholic Church, anybody who's speaking about them is quoting Diodorus Siculus, period. And he's getting his information via his fragments and information that he have from Hecataeus, which is considered pseudo. So that's facts. That's the truth. There is nothing. They didn't write any books. We don't have any paintings. We don't have nothing that's consistent with a group of people living during a certain period of time. Don't exist. We have it with everybody else. But when it comes to the biblical Jews, nothing. Now, outside the Bible, we know what we have. We have these black Jews that we find when we start going back. They were black. And this is why we saw all the paintings, black Jews and black bishops or what have you. We know that. And this is why the black Hebrews are saying, well, they was black. And then you have to understand, what all this means. It means if anything else had this type of background and history and information to it, we would immediately call it a fake. But because religion is surrounded by so much, people are believing it, because why would these people build churches? Or why would we have all this religious stuff going on if it's fake? Why would they do all this? What is it about? And it's people who they have absolutely no clue what this is all about and how deep it is. We grew up in church, we was raised going to church, and we believe in this, religion and God and so on and so forth. And why would these people lie? What is going on? And there's many reasons that you need to understand. And then another thing you need to understand is that just because you got one piece of information from one source about how we got here on this planet doesn't make that one source correct. It means you haven't looked at other sources. You haven't looked at civilizations that existed long before biblical religion, who gave us similar stories and different stories that we can look at, religion and see that they had to have taken from them. But if you believe the religion, then you're going to be confused, because you can't believe the book when we don't have any proof about the book. But this is what most people do. They believe, well, the Bible says in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Who was there to record that? Who was there? Remember, Moses dies, and then Moses is supposed to have wrote the 5 books, and he's dead and gone. How is he dead and still writing these books? So there's so many things you have to think about. And who are these people to tell you what God said and did? And these people had nothing. We can't go back during the time of the Jews and find one building. We can't find one structure. How can these people tell you what God said and did, but we can't find nothing on these people? We can't even find a book that he supposedly inspired these people to write, the manuscripts, whatever you want to call it. We can't find this stuff. So then we go into Egypt, because, at the end of the day, I tell people I was raised in church. My uncle was a Christian. He was a preacher. And I set out to prove the Bible was correct, because I hated non-believers, and I really was a diehard Christian. And I set out to prove it was real. This is not somebody who just jumped on YouTube. I've been to these places in the Bible. I've been to every country in the Bible, and I can show and prove this stuff. This is what I do. And I'm not a person who's just out to try to make somebody look bad. So you got to understand, I desperately wanted it to be true. It broke my heart when it wasn't, because it's like, now what? And that's why I'm successful today, because I realized I don't have to pray and beg this imaginary God for success. I need to go get off my ass and go and get it. So it wasn't me just, trying to be smarter than everybody else. So you got to be real with yourself and understand, when you go and set out and you go and look for this information, that you are doing your due diligence to yourself, to your psyche, that you are actually looking for real truth and not what fits what you want it to fit. So as I was saying, we go into Egypt, and what do we find? We find stuff that's older than what we see the Bible claims to have, invented or came up with before what we find in Kemet. So the whole thing about the soul, the Bible is supposed to be the first writings. Biblical religion is supposed to be the first on everything spiritual, according to it. But we go into sources that we know for sure exist, and we find stuff that predates the Bible. So of course, we got to ask questions. This is not about, like I said, people just trying to show you up, at least me, because if anybody, and I said this before, if a homeless person came up to you, you're a Christian, and a bum come up to you and say, God told me to tell you to give me everything you own, to go seek him out in the desert until you find him. Your ass gonna want proof. You ain't just gonna do it. You're gonna want proof. So that's what we are saying. Somebody's telling us this is something that's impossible to us. So we're saying, okay, we're gonna go look for the proof. Let's go look. And this is what we're finding. You can't find me anything biblical that predates what's in Kemet, what's in Egypt. We go in there and they put it in stone, so it will be no mistake. You can't erase it, unless you chisel it out, which is what they try to do in a lot of places. A lot of stuff that's missing in there, but we know it's there. We know everybody talked about this civilization. And then you have the fact that, one, you go in the Bible, Let's not talk about the pyramids. They don't mention it. They don't mention the Sphinx. They don't mention, so many amazing things that's in Egypt in the Bible. And the Egyptians don't mention them. And the Egyptians, they mention everybody and had a name for everybody. They was thorough. There's no way, if the biblical accounts were real, that we wouldn't find it on the walls in Kemet. There's no way. We would find this stuff. And we would know that it's true because we would see it there. And people, when they don't say stuff, people just make up their mind about what they think they see. So for the people who believe that, this is the Jews, no. We have wars with the Hittites, wars with the Hyksos. And we know the Hyksos actually conquered Egypt for a time and took the Egyptians captive for a time and ruled for a time. So the people you see in bondage, if you don't see Ramses, bashing the skulls of the Hittites, a lot of them are the Egyptians themselves, but they describe these people as who they are. The Hittites, they had a name for outsiders, foreigners, but nobody spoke nothing on Israel. So this is why, or Jews. So this is why we have this, the Marian Patah Stela, and it's supposed to say Israel on it, and all these other stelas that's, supposedly alluding to Egypt or leading to the Jews. But we have since found that a lot of these are forgeries. They can't be confirmed 100% to be what they say they are. And, I've been to, Cairo Museum and a few other museums. I've looked at a lot of these stelas. And I mean, come on. Anybody can chisel this stuff in and make it look like what they wanted to say. It's very easy to do. And this is what must have happened in a lot of these cases. But besides that, who's running the show? Who's controlling the research study? Where's the money coming from? What's the point of this? For them to say they found something that they believe goes back to biblical times, but they can't prove it. And this is what we have in just about every single case of, artifact dating before the 4th century BCE belonging to the biblical Jews. It's nothing. It's nothing. So there's something that you have to understand, and I'll leave it at this. Everything in this argument that's coming from the side of religious people is based on faith, period. There's no facts to back up Jesus walked on water. And as I said on Instagram, if Jesus walked on water, that means he could fly. And he probably would have flown his ass away from the crucifixion. Just that simple. There's no way you can prove that snakes and donkeys can talk, that Elisha had magical powers, that a bear mauled 40 boys. Like, if this is the God you follow, not even to get into all that. But come on. Then you have scriptures that's talking about kidnapping little girls and killing little boys and eating babies and so on and so forth. And this is how you can tell who's actually reading the book, because I don't think any sane person would follow this if they actually read the book. And for the people who say God is good all the time and the Bible is nothing but a good book, they don't read the book. And the thing is, the reason why all these researchers is coming out and, they're getting their money on proving this stuff is wrong, because deep down inside, they know it's bullshit. So when somebody comes up and say, I found, a shard that has Paleo Hebrew on it, or I found something that goes to, the Bible and it's Jehoiachin's, tablets about his, his measurements or what have you, which was proven to be false, by the way. Yeah. The real research is like, man, I know the Bible bullshit. I know it's not real. I know ain't no damn, grown ass man survived 3 days in a big fish, So I'm going to go prove this wrong. I know this. I'm going to make a name for myself. And this is what's happening in a lot of cases, because common sense just trumps religion any day. And you got to really use your brain and be real with yourself and look at, logic, logic. But when it comes to information, this stuff is based strictly on faith, and people having faith and believing this stuff is real, and they can't prove that it is. And that's what it comes down to. So I say to you, you don't like me, you don't like people like me, you don't like my followers or anybody that's putting out truth and trying to put out the truth, then if you come at us, come with facts, come with real information. Don't come with this bullshit we've been seeing for years. I really do this. I do this. And I know what's already been put out there, because if it was real, I would be a Christian. I would be on here preaching the word of God instead of talking about the truth about it. So I know what's out. I know what's been out. They find new stuff all the time, new artifacts. They have yet to find more artifacts pertaining to the Jews in Israel than pertaining to the ancient Egyptians. Think about that. Way more artifacts found in Israel pertaining to the ancient Egyptians than the Jews. Why? Because there was ancient Egyptian territory and it ruled it. If the Jews did what they did, if the Israelites went out conquering, like the Bible says, we would find stuff. We would find so much stuff. We would find what we find in every civilization that went out and conquered. We don't find that with them. So for people who say, well, God made it all disappear, or God made the bodies disappear, how come they popping up and claiming to find little stuff here and there, with writing on it? What is that? Then you have to completely forget that, it's only supposed to be the Levites writing stuff. And then you're trying to tell me we have stuff that's written by the Levites when we find this stuff? You can't prove that. Then you have to discount the fact that, okay, we didn't have writings because we had an oral Torah for millennia. So why are we finding these so-called writings and shards and so on and so forth? They just don't make sense. Don't make sense. So I'll leave people with that, and, do your research, be true to yourself, and, make sure you're not out here looking stupid over something that deep down inside you don't follow and you don't believe in and you don't read that book. Plain and simple. So thanks to everybody who been supporting, and appreciate the support. Make sure you guys take advantage of the sale for the 3 days that is up for only $8 or $9. Appreciate you guys. See you next video.